So a platform that allows you to compare financial products like mortgages, personal loans, and insurance from a bunch of different companies to find the best rates. Sounds like a really decent platform, right? Well, that's exactly what LendingTree promises to do, but underneath the surface, there's a little bit more going on that you should be aware of if you do decide to use their service. So in this video, we're gonna cover exactly what LendingTree is, how it works, and then what's going on under the surface, how they're making money, and why that might not align with your best interest. So if you're excited for that, do me a quick favor, smack that like button, and let's dive right on into it. So diving right in, what is LendingTree? Okay, well, LendingTree is a comparison website, and a very large comparison website at that. When you look at all of the websites out there for financial products, comparing them between each other, a lot of them are actually owned by LendingTree. So LendingTree goes out there and buys up these smaller websites like Student Loan Hero, Value Penguin, I think there's one called like Card Comparison. And so they buy up these smaller websites and they add them into like their arsenal of websites. And if you're not familiar with how much these types of websites actually sell for, the numbers here might be a little bit surprising to you. So I was doing some research for this video, and over the last about 4 or so years, LendingTree has spent cumulatively across about 10 different websites, they've spent about $500 million acquiring these financial comparison websites, which again, that might just blow your mind. I know it blew my mind when I was reading this, because it was like $500 million across these different websites. Okay, it's absolutely crazy. So like Student Loan Hero, they bought that site for $60 million. Value Penguin was just over $100 million. Compare Cards, I thought it was Card Comparison, it's actually Compare Cards. They bought that site for $130 million. So like these sites go for a lot of money. And full disclosure here, I actually am a part owner in an investing related blog that we're growing right now. It's nowhere near the size of these websites. Hopefully someday it'll sell for anywhere near that amount. And there's a lot of money to be made in these types of websites, especially in the financial niche. And we'll get into just why that is in a little bit when we dive into their business model. But the company has been around since 1996, and they IPO'd in the dot-com boom in 2000. Since then, they have continued to grow, and they now have a market capitalization of $3.5 billion, making them a very significant player in the personal finance website space. And you wouldn't really know it. I mean, like personally, I'd never really heard much about LendingTree, and the reason I wanted to make this video is that pretty much all of the YouTube results when you search for LendingTree are videos that were actually put out by LendingTree, the company themselves. So I was like, let's get some unbiased opinions in here, because the LendingTree search results deserve a little bit more variety than just the marketing videos that they're putting out there. Now, just for a little bit more context on the company, they have helped originate over $50 billion in loans. So how the platform basically works is they connect you, a borrower, with different lenders out there, okay? And they help you facilitate, like I said, mortgages, personal loans, credit cards, all of these different kinds of debt instruments, so that you can get access to money and kind of compare across these different companies what kind of rates and terms you would be looking at. And let me tell you, there's a lot of money in this business, because what they're doing is they are selling your information to these different companies. And financial companies like insurance carriers, like lenders, are willing to pay a lot of money for qualified leads, which is exactly what you are if you are looking for one of their products. So if you are somebody who goes on LendingTree, you're like, I'm looking for an auto loan. There are so many companies out there that would pay a lot of money to get in front of you with their auto loans, because they know that this is a very profitable product for them. It's something that you're gonna be locked into for years, and it's gonna make them a lot of money. So they're willing to pay a good chunk of change to get your phone number, your email address, and basically any means of contact info they can, so they can get a hold of you and try to sell you their auto loan. But more on that in a little bit. So essentially, the LendingTree platform allows you to compare rates between different lenders on these different types of loans. Pretty straightforward. You log in and you get this dashboard, which is pretty similar to like the Credit Karma dashboard. If you've ever used Credit Karma before, I'm a very avid Credit Karma user. So on your dashboard, you see things like your credit score. You can see a breakdown based on all the different factors that go into your credit score. You can see over time how it's trending. So all that stuff is right there. And then they've got a bunch of different tabs where you can select different types of financial products like mortgages, auto loans, insurance, etc., and start perusing rates and terms between these different lenders. They've also recently added a feature where you can link different bank accounts. They'll give you kind of like a spending breakdown of where your money's going. You can do some budgeting stuff. It's pretty similar to like if you've ever used Mint before. They've got kind of that functionality as well. So they've really got like your credit stuff, they've got your budgeting stuff, and then they've got all these different financial products that you can compare. And what they'll also do is they'll give you suggestions, okay? So you'll link up your bank accounts and your mortgage and whatever, and maybe they'll say like, hey, it might be smart for you to refinance your mortgage right now because interest rates have come down. We see your interest rate is 5%. Now you can get an interest rate of about 3%. And so they'll make these suggestions for you based on what they find in your current financial situation that could potentially save you money. So all in all, sounds pretty good in theory, right? I mean, they're making suggestions to you, they're showing you all these different products, giving you all this information, and it's all free, okay? You don't have to pay anything to use the LendingTree platform, but in practice, not so great. So like I mentioned before, LendingTree makes money by referring you to these different lenders. Okay, so the lenders are paying LendingTree for the qualified leads that LendingTree is sending their way. In addition, LendingTree is getting paid by these lenders just to be listed on the LendingTree platform. So whenever you are looking to do some kind of comparison on LendingTree, you can be pretty confident that the people who are showing up in those results paid to be there. Okay, so it's kind of like a pay-to-play system, which isn't that great in the grand scheme of things. Okay, it's not a great way to come up with an unbiased set of results when the people have to pay you to get on the results list. So that's kind of one of my biggest concerns with LendingTree, is that they're not giving you an unbiased picture of the entire landscape of loans that you could be applying for. They're giving you a very specific subset of these, and that subset is the people that are willing to pay LendingTree lots of money to get in front of you. And if they're willing to pay LendingTree a lot of money to get in front of you, they probably are making a lot of money. If they're making a lot of money, they might not be giving you the best rates possible. So in the grand scheme of things, I don't think it's the best way to find an unbiased comparison between these different lenders. And I think it's also important to mention that like these loans aren't being marked up or anything. So the price that you see on LendingTree is the same price that you would see theoretically if you just like walked into that bank off the street and asked them for a loan. So you're not worried about that, but what you are worried about is that you're not seeing all of the best options, because some of the best options might not be wanting to pay LendingTree a fee to get in front of you. So that's what you got to think about when you're using the LendingTree platform. Now, there's also a couple other things that you're going to want to watch out for if you do decide to use LendingTree. And the first thing that I noticed when I was doing some research here is that the reviews on the Better Business Bureau and on Trustpilot, there was a huge discrepancy between these. Okay, on Better Business Bureau, these guys are not looking too hot at all, but then on Trustpilot, they've got really good reviews. So I was kind of like, okay, what's going on here? When there's a huge discrepancy between these, there's usually something going on. And so what it seems like is that there's people that don't understand how the platform actually works, first of all. So a lot of the bad reviews are people saying like, these guys aren't actually lenders, like I couldn't get any money from them. And they're pretty straightforward about the fact that they're not lenders themselves, they merely connect you with lenders. But the second big complaint that people had was that their information was being sold, one, to lenders that they did not want to talk to, but two, to companies that weren't even related to lending. So people reported getting like 50 plus spam calls over the next week of signing up for LendingTree, not even from just financial institutions, but from people who were trying to scam them for their social security number, would tell them that their Apple account had been frozen and they have to give them money to get that unlocked, and just like your traditional like spam calls that you get, you know, like the you won a trip to Disneyland kind of stuff. Like they were getting a lot of calls like that, and that was reported multiple times in these negative reviews. So LendingTree obviously sells your information, that's how they make money, but if they're selling it to not even financially related institutions, that's probably not very great. Additionally, not all of the lenders on the LendingTree platform are going to be the best to work with. So like I said, these are the lenders that are willing to pay LendingTree a lot of money to get you in the door. If that's the case, they might not be the best lending institutions. And so there's been a lot of reports of people who have not had a great time working with some of the institutions that are featured on the LendingTree platform. Because like I said, this is not an unbiased set of results. This is a very biased set of results. It's biased because it's only the people that are willing to pay LendingTree money to be there. So you have to keep that in mind when you're doing business on the LendingTree platform, and know that you're not getting a full picture of the landscape just from the results. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, LendingTree is not a scam. They're not a scummy company, but personally, I choose not to do business with them just because, I mean, personally, I'm not even in the market for a loan right now, but when I am in the market for a loan, I would rather just go to the institutions that I already trust, that I already know, do some little bit of comparison shopping between just a few of the top choices, and then make a decision from there, okay? Because with LendingTree, a lot of the lenders on there aren't the best that you're gonna find, and you typically just have better options out there. So doesn't get the Apple credit or stamp of approval, but at the same time, it's not a scam, so you definitely can choose to sign up for it if it makes sense for you. Now, the next thing you should do is click the subscribe button down below and check out this video over here where I dive deep into something else. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it if you enjoyed this video, so I'll see you over there.